As a nation, we're not very good at asking for help. We think it's a sign of weakness to admit that we don't have all the answers. But in the military, I learnt that we came to depend on the expertise of others. So when I had to leave the army and forge ahead with a new life and a new career, I realised that I'd need some specialist advice. And the specialist I chose was a business coach.
Tony Harris is a former captain in the British Army. He was injured in Afghanistan and went on to create Race to Recovery, a race team for injured servicemen which became the first ever team of amputees to complete the infamous Dakar Rally. Tony's still heavily involved with Race to Recovery and will be racing Dakar again, but he's also working to build a new business for himself, having now left the army. To help him do this, he's teamed up with Action Business Coach Derry to bring his plans to life.
I think during the build-up and obviously for Dakar, everything was focused on Race to Recovery. I didn't put a great deal of thought into what I was actually going to do long-term with my life. So I struggled with the idea of how I could get paid to do these things and how much am I worth as an individual, and realised very, very quickly that if I was going to go down this route, I would need to get some professional help to assist me with formulating exactly what my purpose was, structuring the way the business would work and how we're going to make this successful. That was probably one of the best decisions I made. Certainly early on was the idea of getting someone to bring their experience to bear, albeit in a totally different area of business, but actually there's a lot of similarities across the board. And also someone could bat ideas off.
Business coaching may have come as something of a revelation to Tony, but for Claire, becoming a coach was a logical move.
When I started coaching, I suddenly realised that this was something that I really enjoyed doing. And I think I've always had a sporty background as well, and I just got it. You know, it was that realisation that when you go to the gym, if you're in a class or you have a personal trainer, you do much more than you do if you're just on your own at the gym. And in the same way, having a business coach that actually puts together a training program, as it were, which is the business plan, and then holds you accountable to do the things you've said you'd do, is an amazing focus. And it's a lot of people just don't have that. They just keep on that treadmill, just keep on doing and doing, not necessarily doing anything that's actually going to take them to where they want to go. And if you carry on doing the same thing all of the time, you make the same mistakes.
Tony, hi, nice to see you. Tony and Claire are meeting up for what's known as an alignment session. It's a chance for them to get to know each other, but it's also a process that enables her to understand exactly what makes Tony tick, to find out his plans and goals, and to make sure they're both aligned in terms of the work that will follow to get Tony on track.
It's these limiting beliefs that people have that sabotage them. You know, one of the first things I do when I'm taking on a new client is really get them to focus on, you know, why are you doing this? What do you want to achieve? What do you want to have in your life that you haven't got at the moment? And what does this business need to do and achieve for you to have the life you want to have?
Exactly.
Pretty quickly, Claire gets to the bottom of what's holding Tony back and starts to put some shape to the plan.
Because then we can sell you and it's genuine. I think part of what you're struggling with perhaps is you're not sure who and what you're sure who and what you are, but you aren't sure what you are in the business context. So I think it's important we sort of get some clarity on this company. What would you get passionate about doing in the business?
Well, I mean, it's the speaking side of things. It is that public speaking. I enjoy being in front of people. I enjoy like crowds, audiences, stuff like that. I know
Is there anything you'd like the business to achieve?
There's one thing I would love for it to achieve in the sort of first 10 years is doing a TED talk.
Fantastic. Yeah.
That's like the...
Yeah, absolutely. My son is a huge advocate of TED Talks.
I think TED's brilliant. I think it's fantastic. But
so that would be a fabulous goal, Tony.
To go for, so that's like the...
Yeah.
Tony's just starting out on his journey into business. But in London, there's another ActionCOACH Business Coach who's achieved for his client Louis what for many business owners would be the dream solution: to have their business running successfully without them needing to be there. Parag Prasad is based in the city and runs a hugely successful business coaching operation.
I was actually an employee in the corporate world, so I had a job as an accountant, and I used to work not very far from this office now for a global organisation called PricewaterhouseCoopers in the centre of London. My life really has completely radically changed in the last 7 years. Before I just had a job. Now, first of all, I'm able to actually make a difference to other people's lives. Louis was a guy I met one day at a business workshop that I was delivering a few years ago. I think the best way of summarising where he was in a total state of chaos. He had a great business. This was the frustration. He always had a great business. Very, very good at what they do. They're in the PR industry. They are experts. But he as a person was just being pulled left, right and centre due to the cash concerns and the team and everything else.
Essentially, we'd come over a very challenging period for the agency. We'd taken on a huge piece of work. We delivered it with professionalism and very strong results, but it took its toll on me professionally and the agency, and it took its toll on me in my personal life as well.
It took up a lot of his time, a lot of his energy, a lot of his thoughts. And I think, there probably was an element of resentment of the business. It's something you start out and I could see with Louis, it's something, he started out and he was really passionate about, and he's won awards and done amazing things, but it was starting to get to the point, I think, where he felt it was restricting him and really sort of sucking his energy away.
As soon as I had a business coach in place, I felt a huge amount of relief and reassurance that, first of all, I'd selected the right partner and that this solution was going to work for us. This was somebody who was explaining certain things that needed to happen within the organisation, and it all made sense. Essentially, these were the things that I didn't have the time and, most importantly, the headspace to think about.
His initial objectives were to get the business back on track financially, but also for his own life. He had a lot of other interests. He wanted to take his agency internationally. So he wanted to open other offices and have that presence abroad, which also linked in with his other goals around travel and experiencing other cultures and ways of living. That was very important to him. So there was a lifestyle element as well as a business growth element.
And we'll be back with Louis and Parag later to see what they did to turn things around. Tony's come along to a planning session with Claire in Roehampton. It's not only an opportunity for him to give some shape to his ideas, but it's also an opportunity to make new contacts.
I discharged from the army in March this year, and having spent the last 2 years in my service, or 3 years, in the injured kind of side of things after losing my leg in Afghan.
After the introductions, it's down to work, and Tony quickly finds that his military experience sits very well in a business planning situation.
If something goes one way, then that kind of feeds a decision that way. If a decision's something different, like the water's darker or whatever, then you go a different plan. So flexible.
Well, today with Tony, we're working through his business plans. And so we're looking at the key goals that he's established that he wants to achieve. At the alignment, we came up with 3-year goals. We're now breaking that down to what does he need to do in the next 90 days that gets him on track to achieve the goals he wants to achieve. All of our processes and plans are based on the assumption that at some point somebody either wants to exit their business or bring in a general manager who's going to run it for them. So that is where we come to the 6 steps that we go through as a process to help you get your business to the point where it's a commercial, profitable enterprise that could work without you.
Yeah, I mean, I started off, I had a vision of what I wanted to be doing, but it was quite wide. So now to have someone who's helping me streamline it, realise I can say no. I have boundaries on what I will and won't do, and focusing on the things that mean the most to me and also generate the best revenue for me, that's perfect. So to that extent, it's helped me immeasurably.
So what is going to be the most pressing things that you're going to do sort of in the next 2 weeks before we speak again?
Well, the marketing plan, that marketing and PR plan of how are we going to sort of generate a wider understanding that I exist in this format, and also then that more, it's almost cold calling, but sending brochures and leaflets to schools, and how are we going to grab their attention, how are you going to make it stand out from the crowd,
and how can I best help you with that?
I think honest feedback. If we, when we develop something, maybe fire it over to you and say, can you just run your eye over this? What do you think works? What doesn't work?
Sure, happy to do that.
In short, I feel a lot clearer now about where I've got to go, what I've got to target, and don't feel like there are 100 roads to choose and I can take any one of them. I actually realise that I've got some very definite tracks to go and beat down, and hopefully we'll see at the end of that what in the next 90 days what we can achieve just before we go for the Dakar. So it'll be interesting.
Tony's come to Wales as part of his final preparations for the Dakar Rally. He's taking part in Wales Rally GB, which is the British leg of the World Rally Championships. Race to Recovery have entered several crews, not just the teams who'll be racing the Dakar, and this is a key part of their programme to help injured servicemen build a new life through racing. For Tony, it's just another day in the office. But this gruelling competition keeps all the drivers out on the Welsh tracks right into the evening. And back in the service park, team principal Ben God is waiting anxiously for his drivers to get back for essential maintenance. The World Rally teams have long since returned, and their drivers can relax and enjoy some team hospitality. But the wait goes on for Ben and the others. Finally, Tony comes into sight, and the preparation for tomorrow's stages can begin.
Yeah, really good, mate.
Tony's catching up with Claire for one last meeting before heading off to the Dakar, and he's brought his assistant Kiki with him. It's time to report back on the progress he's made. But as always, the best laid plans are always adaptable.
Programs, I think it's 16 modules that they do, and out of those 16, I think there's 3 he's doing now.
And that sort of led to some quite significant overhauls of what it is that we want to do.
It's good to have a plan, but the plan's flexible enough to go in any direction we need to take it in, because it's going to evolve as you get yourself out there a bit.
And that's quite nice, because that's sort of the same as what the military plan was. So no plan survives contact.
So far, we've produced the first 90-day plan, which was really getting the business up and running as a business. So we needed a website, we needed some marketing material, we needed business cards. He actually brought in Kiki to work alongside him as his assistant to help with some of that detail, because he needs somebody that is keeping a continuous presence in the market, sending out the brochure, booking the next school. Because what happens with businesses, and this is what typically happens with business owners, is they're so busy doing the stuff that they're not planning the next thing, or they're not continually marketing. So the business has big peaks and big troughs.
Tony's overall plan to focus on public speaking is taking shape. But Claire's keen to test where Tony's racing fits in.
It's a story that not many people can do. So therefore it's an exciting kind of hook. Now,
I could just talk about the one time I did Dakar, but if I can maintain a presence doing that sort of racing, then it's always a new story. It's never the same thing twice.
Your team is definitely in it,
Yeah. The cars ship on Thursday, that's why it's manic. So I'm going out to the garage after this.
Right.
To
How many cars in this year?
2 cars, 1 truck.
I do quite a lot of work with the Institute of Directors, and it struck me that Tony would be an ideal candidate to come along to one of our future meetings to talk about leadership and his own experiences. So we are having an event which will be certainly one of the first times I've actually witnessed Tony in person presenting to a group of business leaders. Yes, I think how he does at something like that will be a key performance indicator, and it's coming up, quite soon. For Tony, it will be one of the first he's done with a group of directors of large corporations and businesses.
Tony's at the Race to Recovery base in Hampshire, where they're preparing the cars for the Dakar Rally. He's also playing host to potential new team members as part of a recruitment drive.
Usually the night before, you'll kind of do your visa or whatever it is, the paperwork, and then they'll sort of send someone from the border agency to the bivouac, so you do it there. And you get there and you just literally hand over a piece of paper and stuff like that. So really quick. It is very swept up. It's a very well organised race, and from that point of view, safety levels are way higher than pretty much any other race you're going to see. It's staggering how good it is.
It's a very busy time for him. So how does he feel things are going?
Having Claire around Action Coach has given me the ability to look at things and say, actually, you shouldn't do everything that comes your way. Don't overcook it. Everyone, when they run a business, it is an incredibly lonely and isolating place to be, because that is the nature of leadership. You have no one below you who you can moan about things to, because you are the role model. It is your business. So having someone who's a coach, someone who's got business experience in a successful business, I would say is vital to your own state of mind and to be able to make rational, logical decisions. I've been very lucky to have the training and the help and assistance I've had so far. And I think more than that is the stuff that's still to come when I face new hurdles in business or the situation changes. I can still talk and get that encouragement that I need as well.
While Tony's away in the South American desert, let's return to Parag and his client Louis. When Louis first started working with Parag, he was struggling to manage the pressures of running the business, and his personal life was beginning to suffer. So how did they turn things around?
Well, at the beginning it was clear that there was some work to be done to gain control of cash flow in particular, and then the other areas of the business, of course, would take more time. But I'd say certainly within the first 3 months, I felt happier, and within the first 6 months, I can honestly say that I had more time to myself because I knew what the priorities were for the business. So that was like a light bulb moment.
Louis' personal interests were absolutely important to him, and the main way we've been able to achieve that is by coaching Louis on effectively his leadership and management skills so that he could empower his second in command in the business, a lady called Edwina, to effectively run a lot of the day-to-day operations for him.
Louis' role has changed significantly in that he's not involved in client campaigns. He's involved in the pitch process at the beginning, but even that largely is left to myself and the team. He'll do final sign-off, and it's allowed him to focus on the business and making sure that we're actually selling and marketing the business in a way that we would recommend to our clients. So, practicing what we preach.
They have a very complementary set of skills that when merged together as a leadership team really creates a huge synergy in the business, because they effectively, two heads become like 4 people, because it's just fantastic the output they can produce because they are very different.
Entrepreneurs are very creative people and have brilliant minds, but they're not necessarily organised or like the more kind of rigorous side of business. The most successful businesses have two different types of personalities at the top, an A type and a B type, because no one can do everything.
Time to yourself in running a business, and particularly for a creative person, is paramount. Without headspace or perspective, you can't come up with creative solutions for either clients or creative strategies to optimize efficiency of the business. Now it's like a quiet revolution. We have come over 24 months to a position where I have the opportunity now to take time away from the business and to come up with new ideas and new solutions for increasing business efficiency and profitability.
I think probably coaching with Parag, but also the coaching that Parag did with Louis before, has had a dramatic effect on my work-life balance and therefore my health. It's transformed my life, I'd say, and I'm a much happier person. So.
Louis has an agency, something he can be proud of in terms of the quality of what they do, but also something that delivers the return to him as the owner that he wanted to get from it, which is not a job. It was effectively an asset that can largely work without him and that has an intrinsic value to it.
I mean, he's completely empowered again in his life, and his business is something that you can see he feels exceptionally proud of, because he's managed to turn it into something that is still exceptionally successful, but without him being sat in the middle of it, you know, and the business being reliant on him. It's an operation in itself. It runs itself in the way that it needs to, you know, and he can add value to it, but he's not required to be there in the same way.
Or to be there at all, in fact, because Louis now works from Spain 1 or 2 weeks a month as a lifestyle choice. Tony's back from the Dakar Rally, but the team had mixed fortunes.
Dakar 2014 was a real success for us. We got the race truck across the line to make the first amputee in a truck category to complete the Dakar Rally, which was a fantastic result. At a personal level, we didn't finish the race again, which is frustrating. This time, doubly frustrating was the fact we were doing really well. We'd made up 45 positions in one day, and given the age of the car, that was quite a staggering achievement. It was a bloody hot Dakar this year, and the engine temperatures were wild, but we were kept on top of it. Unfortunately, a small roll in the dunes resulted in a cracked frame, which was something none of us were expecting, certainly at the speed that we rolled the vehicle. So it was a real shame, but it has given us, I know, a bit of a drive to realise that A, we can compete, and we can compete on the right level, which is great. And on the other side, it's given us more of a focus on how to change elements within the team and take lessons from this year's Dakar to make the team stronger and better in the future.
It's the evening of Tony's talk at the Institute of Directors, so he's off to Twickenham.
Well, tonight we're at the Institute of Directors at the branch of West Thames in Twickenham, where Tony is doing a speech to a group of directors on leadership and having a positive outlook when things go terribly wrong. So this is a real milestone for Tony to be coming and talking to a group like this.
To pass over to our speaker this evening, Tony.
To explain things, I started at Sandhurst 2 days before the Twin Towers got hit. Now, I was blown up on May 21st, 2009. My daughter was 2 weeks old. And it was very much this feeling that I wanted to compete again. I wanted to be part of a team again. I wanted to feel inspired, not only by my own actions, but the actions of others. Because the level of different people in that room was a great swathe of, I suppose, the business environment, I had to think very carefully about what it was that I wanted to say. So it was almost like a taster session, and I think I've been very hopeful that it did go down well, and you know, we've had follow-on subsequent business around it as well, which is great.
I don't know quite with Tony yet what he sees as the end game. The TED Talk is obviously just a one-off. I mean, it will be a sort of culmination of having done a number of successful talks and people having recommended him and great testimonials.
I'm a big believer that training develops and improves people. There is no such thing as a 100% finished article. Even a coach will still be learning things. I think that's important that we never forget that we are constantly learning and things develop and change. So, do I feel fully armed? No. Do I feel prepared for things that can be thrown at me? Yes.
What Tony ultimately ends up doing, whether that's working for himself, running this business, or it's doing something else, I don't think is clear yet. I think it's far too early to know that. But I'm sure whatever he decides, he will be very, very good at it.
Silent Partner is brought to you by ActionCOACH, the world's #1 business coaching firm.